As the sun dips below the horizon and the world is swallowed by the eerie twilight, known in Japan as Omagatoki, people of old believed the veil between our world and the unseen grew thin. Among the countless shadows lurking in the dark, one figure stands out, etched into the collective memory of the Japanese people for centuries. A young boy wearing a traditional straw hat, dressed in simple robes, but with one striking, impossible feature: a single, massive eye staring out from the center of his forehead, and a long, red tongue, lolling out in a mischievous grin. This is the Hitotsume Kozo, or the One Eyed Boy. Most today recognize him as a playful, if slightly creepy character from woodblock prints or modern anime. However, beneath this quirky exterior lies a history never taught in schools. A reality filled with medical tragedies, lost religions, and a profound sense of awe and fear that the people of ancient Japan held for the unknown. Today, we will deconstruct the legend of the Hitotsume Kozo, moving beyond simple ghost stories to explore the depths of history, medicine, and folklore. Why did he have to have only one eye? Why does he take the form of a child? Let us peer into the abyss and discover the truth together. To begin our journey, we must look at the historical records from the Edo period, a time when ghost stories were the height of popular entertainment. Great masters like Katsushika Hokusai and Utagawa Kuniyoshi depicted the one-eyed boy frequently, often showing him startling travelers on dark roads. Yet, for the people of that time, these were not merely drawings. There are numerous accounts in essays and local records of people claiming to have encountered such a being. Imagine yourself walking down a pitch black road in old Japan with nothing but the flickering light of a paper lantern. If you saw someone who looked human, but possessed a feature so fundamentally different from your own, how would you react? Would you be paralyzed by fear, or would you fall to your knees in prayer, believing you had witnessed a god? The roots of the one-eyed beings in Japan are surprisingly divine. In ancient Japanese faith, the gods of the mountains, the gods of the forge, and the gods of the wind were often described as having only one eye or being one-legged. A prominent example is the deity of blacksmiths, Amamano Hitotsu-no-Kami. The name itself translates to the heavenly one-eyed spirit. It is said that blacksmiths, who spent their lives staring into the intense, blinding heat of the forge to judge the temperature of the metal, often lost sight in one eye. These masters of fire and steel were so respected that their physical likeness was projected onto the gods they worshipped. However, we must ask ourselves how a noble deity evolved into a mere monster that frightens passers-by. This shift reflects the changing religious landscape of Japan. As Buddhism spread and urbanization moved people away from the wild mountains, the old, fierce gods were reimagined. They were stripped of their divine authority and redefined as yokai. The transition from a giant mountain god to a small boy represents the shrinking of these ancient powers in the human mind. It is a history of the fall of gods. Moving deeper into the mystery, we must address the most haunting aspect of this legend, the medical reality. In modern science, the condition of being born with a single eye is known as cyclopia. This is a severe congenital disorder where the embryonic forebrain fails to divide the orbits of the eye into two cavities. While it is extremely rare today, historical medical records contain specific and tragic descriptions of such infants. For instance, the Edo-period essay collection Kashiyawa includes multiple accounts of children born with a single eye. To the people of that era, who lacked any understanding of genetic or developmental science, the arrival of such a child was an earth-shattering event. The shock and confusion they felt were woven directly into the fabric of the one-eyed boy legend. Have you ever wondered why the Hitotsume Kozo is almost always depicted as a child around 10 years old? There is a heartbreaking reason suggested by this medical connection. Most children born with Cyclopia do not survive long after their arrival in this world. They often depart for the next life within hours or days. For the parents who lost their children so quickly, perhaps it was easier to believe that their child was not a mere human, but a manifestation of a yokai or a temporary vessel for a god. By turning a tragic reality into a story, they may have found a way to process their grief and offer a form of spiritual peace to the soul that left too soon. Do you think labeling a tragedy as a supernatural event was a form of cruelty, or was it the only way for people of that time to find a sense of mercy in a harsh world? The legend also manifests in specific cultural rituals, particularly the tradition of Kotoyoka. On the 8th day of the 12th and 2nd months, it was believed that the one-eyed boy would visit homes to record the bad deeds of the inhabitants in a ledger. To be written in this book meant inviting misfortune or illness upon the household. To protect themselves, people would place a bamboo basket on a high pole outside their homes. The logic was simple yet fascinating. The woven patterns of the bamboo basket looked like countless eyes. The one-eyed creature, seeing so many eyes staring back at him, would be overwhelmed with fear and flee. This practice highlights the desperate, human desire to ward off unseen misfortune. But look closer, and you see that the one-eyed boy served as a guardian of social order. He was a tool used to teach children to be good and to remind adults to live virtuously. The yokai was a mirror held up to society. Modern science also suggests environmental factors that might have contributed to these births. Certain toxic plants contain alkaloids that can interfere with cell division in a developing fetus. For example, a compound called cyclopamine, found in some lilies, is known to cause cyclopia in animals if ingested during pregnancy. In times of famine or through the misuse of herbal medicines, it is possible that people in certain regions were exposed to such toxins. When we track the sightings of the one-eyed boy, we may actually be tracking the footprints of historical environmental challenges or genetic clusters. If the monsters we fear were actually the products of human suffering and environmental tragedy, can we still look at the Hitotsume Kozo as just a fun ghost story? The one-eyed boy also has a more terrifying counterpart, the Hitotsume-nyudo, a giant one-eyed monk who was said to possess enough strength to take a person's life. This represents the duality of the one-eyed entity, the innocent child and the destructive adult. It reflects the ancient perception of the supernatural as something that could be either playful or catastrophic. In some stories, the one-eyed boy is also linked to the Tofu-kozo, a creature that carries a plate of tofu. It was said that if you ate the tofu he offered, you would fall ill or even lose your life. This was likely a warning about the dangers of food poisoning and the importance of hygiene in an era when food spoiled quickly. The yokai was the personification of the invisible dangers lurking in everyday life. When we look beyond the borders of Japan, we see that one-eyed giants and beings appear in cultures worldwide, most notably the Cyclops of Greek mythology. They too were masters of the forge and close to the gods. This suggests that the human brain has a universal reaction to a face that breaks the rule of symmetry. We are programmed to find comfort in two eyes, and the presence of only one triggers a profound sense of the uncanny, the divine, and the terrifying. The Hitotsume Kozo is the Japanese expression of this primal human instinct. There is a poignant folktale about a village where a child with a single eye was born. The villagers wanted to cast the child out, but the mother loved him unconditionally and kept him hidden. One night, the child vanished. When the mother found him, he was playing in front of a stone statue of Jizo, the protector of children. As she reached out, the child vanished like mist, leaving only a bamboo basket behind. This story suggests that those who were excluded by society in life found a place in the world of the supernatural, a form of salvation through legend. The guilt of the villagers for their lack of compassion may have been what transformed the memory of that child into a permanent fixture of their folklore. As we reach the climax of our exploration, let us consider what the one-eyed boy means for us today. We no longer fear a child with a straw hat on a dark road, but in our digital age, do we not still create monsters out of those who are different? The way we isolate individuals on social media is not so different from how ancient villages defined the other as a yokai. The one-eyed boy is a reminder of the fragility of life and the weight of how we treat the vulnerable. His large eye is not there to scare us, but to observe us, to see how we respond to the presence of the unusual. If you were to encounter him tonight, would you see a monster? Or would you see the reflection of your own humanity in his single eye? The legend of the Hitotsume Kozo is the memory of small lives lost to time, the remnants of fallen gods, and the personification of our deepest fears. By understanding his story, we honor the history of those who were different and the struggle of our ancestors to make sense of a mysterious world. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the shadows of Japan. If you have any local legends or stories about one-eyed beings, please share them in the comments. Your knowledge might be the key to uncovering even more hidden history. If you found this exploration meaningful, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep the light of history burning in the dark. Be careful on your walk home tonight. You never know who might be watching you with a single curious eye.